welcome. Thank you for tuning in today and making the time. First of all, I'd like to introduce our CX for Growth webinar series. We've been running these monthly from the startups team here at Intercom, really focused on kind of a casual interview style with special guests each month, discussing different customer experience topics to help drive growth in your business. So really happy to have you here today. Just some quick housekeeping. I'll encourage everyone. We have quite a large group expected today. So please use the Q&A feature and we'll get to the questions at the end. So I suppose, first of all, grab a coffee, settle in for today's conversation. We're joined by Localize and Linktree, some excellent guests. And today's topic is focused on localizing your customer experience, your customer support experience, should I say. So we'll discuss when and how to prioritize languages and regions, what systems and processes and culture are required to scale, and then also delivering a high quality customer experience with global multilingual support. Excuse me. Let me introduce myself and then I'll ask our guests to also introduce themselves. So I'm Alan Glinchey. I work in the startup partnerships team here at Intercom. I'm based in San Francisco. I'm really promoting Intercom amongst the startup ecosystem. So Dmitry, I might move to you and ask you to introduce yourself and Localize, please.
Yeah, hello. My name is Dmitry. I'm actually build the support team here at Localize from scratch and running it right now. And right now focusing on the better customer experience that's taking care.
Thanks, Dmitry. And Abby, I might ask you to introduce yourself. So.
Hi, my name is Abby Olorunnife. My pronouns are she, her. I'm a communication specialist at Linktree support team. I manage the Linktree Help Center as well as create communication plans for our support agents in order to service our global creator base.
Awesome. And Abby, I might ask you just to give a high-level introduction to Linktree itself and what it is that your business does.
Yeah, absolutely. So Linktree is a link in bio solution for social media platforms. It's a way for creators to kind of share their entire online ecosystem using just one link. So they're able to, if they have a Shopify store, they're able to show their products. If they have, documentations that they want to share, like a restaurant menu, they can add that to their Linktree. So yeah, it's just a very useful tool for creators right now.
Awesome. And Dmitry, I just want to ask you to share a little bit about Localize as well, and then we'll kind of dig into our topics here today.
Yeah, of course. The Localize is the collaborative tool for translations. It's the platform where you can keep all your translations and manage them in order to localize your product.
Super. And Abby, I suppose as we think about when and how to prioritize languages and regions for the folks who have joined us here today, when did Linktree begin to support multiple languages and how should others start to think about that?
Yeah. So from the very early stages of Linktree, we were getting customer inquiries in different languages other than English. However, in 2020, we started to deep dive into where the activation rates of different regions. We're able to identify that, we have a high activation rates in Brazil and Indonesia. And so lining with that findings and aligning it with our country growth managers in those regions, we're able to kind of establish a process that allows us to provide support in these different languages while also making sure that these creators understand that they are still using Linktree. And so, so that's kind of how that all started. And we've been,
I suppose, was there any reason those countries kind of surfaced as you looked into it? Was it from activity that had as a company you'd done it, or was it more just from the virality of your product?
It was very natural, just because we were found in a lot of social, like Instagram, link in bios. So these creators just happened to see us and then just, start using us. And so, we just found that a lot of Brazilians just love Linktree. A lot of Indonesians love Linktree.
Awesome.
And so that's kind of how that came about.
No, that's good to understand. And I suppose, Dmitry, how do you think companies should kind of prioritize languages and regions from your point of view?
Oh, well, I think there are two main things how you prioritize the languages. The first one is that you have to be aligned with the rest of the department, especially marketing, product and sales. About products, so you have to know if they plan to localize your product to the other languages. means that you have to be ready to support this language. Then about the sales team as well, if you have any sales agents, salespeople in, let's say, in China, and they speak the Chinese language, so you also have to be ready to provide support in that language, because, if they sell in Chinese language, so then the customers will want to communicate their native language as well. And the marketing, of course, also should be aligned there, because if they plan to do any campaign in the new region, so yeah, support should follow that and provide support that way.
And Miguel, I might just move to you. What are the kind of basic building blocks you see that companies need as they're getting started and building their multilingual function?
All right. Hi everyone. I didn't present myself, but I'm Miguel.
Oh, apologies, Miguel.
No worries. I work at Localize with the product and marketing team. My job is to find and uncover how to leverage technology to provide localized customer experiences. So I'm very into AI automation and how that can help customer service teams. Regarding your question, Alan, that's a great question. Well, I think the first thing that people need to do is actually align the customer service strategy when it comes to multilingual customer support with the other teams. I think Dmitry already talked about that. That's like the first step. Then there are 3 topics that I think people should have in mind. One is definitely technology. One of the most important things about companies that are growing is scalability. And, this is actually true for every single department, but for customer service as well, customer support as well. You need to make sure that you have the right technology in place, that you have like a tech stack that connects together, and only then you can actually leverage automation and smooth workflows between your localization workflow and your customer service processes. The second part is exactly that, processes. So I think every team should look at it right from the beginning and try to understand, okay, where does localization actually meet the customer service processes, and how can we make them as seamless as possible? I'm not going to go into much detail because we have few time, but if you want to know more about that, I will gladly help out. And the third thing is people. So I think that, when you're building your strategy, imagine that you are sure that, you're going to have a huge market in China. So maybe you need a local agent, but maybe you don't. It depends on your objectives for that country. So today you can actually hire a customer service team like you were hiring for one language, because you have technology like localized messages, for example, that enables you to respond and receive messages translated in real time. So that means that you help your agents respond in any language. The second part of it, last point of the people part, is the partners. So you probably will need to tag with a translator, hire a translator, or hire a language service provider. Just make sure that it's a right fit, that they understand your business, and that they understand what you're trying to achieve when localizing customer service.
Yeah, and there's probably a whole decision point around kind of insourcing and outsourcing partners that can support you, and when that makes sense to move between both. And probably at any point, you'll still need a level of being able to flex and bring in partners to support different busy periods and things like that, right? And sorry, Miguel, I must apologize. I had my screen on just a line of windows and hadn't seen you joined yet. So I apologize for missing you at the start, but great to have you here and get started. I think, Abby, it'd be great to maybe think about how your team, like thinking about systems and tools and processes as we've gotten into it. How do your team think about scaling your multilingual support operation?
Yeah, so we reached out to a support agency that does service a global customer base. And so at the time, we kind of leveraged our country growth managers to help with the training for some of these support agents that had to support in Brazilian Portuguese and Indonesian. Mm-hmm. So because those weren't the only 2 languages that our customers were coming to us with, a lot of any other language, so example like German, our agents would just kind of copy and paste the language into Google Translate just to see what they're saying and then respond back to the creator. And so having that experience wasn't really the best. And so we started looking at options in terms of how best we can really, not leave the Intercom system, but be able to provide service in different languages without having to rely on Google Translate. And so early this year, we kind of got more engaged with Localize. So we use Localize for our Intercom chat experience. So this allows our agents to stay within Intercom and be able to read exactly what the creator has messaged us about, and then respond in the same language, all within Intercom. So that has been a massive, massive help, not even just for our creators, just to get that kind of more personal experience, but for our agents, just to be able to not having to leave the platform and use all these different systems. And yeah, so that's kind of how that came about. And then in Intercom in general, we definitely offer queues in Brazilian, Indonesian, and then our support agents are assigned into those queues. And that's kind of how we manage a localized support experience.
Did you start with support, or did you localize the front end website and things like that first and then build support? What was the kind of the sections overall in the business that happened?
Yeah, definitely. The business, especially the growth team, they were the ones that determined that we needed like country managers for each regions. And so that's how we kind of got our Brazilian and Indonesian country managers. With that conversation, that then led to how do we then support these and show growth in these regions and provide the support needed to kind of complement that growth. And so that's kind of how that kind of, moved into the support environment where the country growth managers were able to work with us and build out that localized experience in Intercom.
Super. Yeah, your experience of using Google Translate, I won't spend too long on it, but I was trying to speak with a French founder in recent weeks through email, and I was translating over and back, and I can't speak any French, just to be clear. And I got a message back and I put it into Translate and it said, "You're not making a lot of sense." And I was like, oh.
Exactly. Yeah, it's not the best experience. Yeah.
Lost in translation for sure. So better to have professionals dealing with it. I suppose, Dmitry, is there anything as you think about building out multi-language kind of support operations that can scale what your team has learned?
Yeah, of course. About 3 years ago, I was actually thinking about building the actual multilingual team, hiring people like from different regions just because they speak the specific language. And that's my work in the short-term solution. But on the end of the day, in a few years, if you do the like 10x or even 100x exercises, if you're a small company, we all understand that hiring extra 100 people to cover all the languages is not scalable at all. And we tried that, but then we decided that it's better to use like nowadays tools as localized messages that we use internally. And it's better to focus on the quality of your support and build just English, the one language team, and then use that tool. So then every single support agent can speak basically any language. Of course, it may depend on the context. On like what kind of product you have, because in our case it works pretty well. And we didn't have any complaint for the past few years from our customers that, well, this doesn't make sense what you're talking about. Just because of MC, that something is not clear. So yeah, nobody complained about that, and we are satisfied.
So you're using a combination of machine translation, should I say, and then agents overriding that or checking the quality?
Of course, we have, our team speaks about 30 languages in total. And of course, we're always trying to prioritize native language over English if it is possible when we're speaking with our customers. And Intercom as a live chat environment allows us to do the, like a dynamic key reassignation. So it's pretty easy. We know all our colleagues. We can quickly reassign cases to the native speaker, and that helps. So yeah, we kind of combine the both.
Super. Miguel, how do you see kind of customer needs evolving at the moment around localization?
Well, I'll tell you what I've been seeing the last like 4 years. That's the amount of time that I've been very much focused on customer service, not only on localization but in general. One
Yeah.
thing that I saw is self-service being, a big focus for everyone. I think that happened because of the COVID pandemic. There was this like first wave of intense, number volume of interactions in your digital channels, and then the customers got used to it and they actually like it. So, there are stats that say that 81% of customers try to solve their problems before actually speaking to an agent. And I've seen cases of, it depends on the company, on the use cases, obviously, but self-service can deflect 10, 20, 30, even 40% of your interactions. So if you want to scale, self-service is very important. And what we see is that, if you are present in, let's say, 50 countries, and you have your knowledge base in English, you're only going to cover just a small percentage of people with that knowledge base, right? And so we see a lot of companies focusing on self-service. The other thing that we see is more and more companies anticipating the need for multilingual support. So the first times we saw companies just coming to us like, oh, we have this pile, hundreds of interactions that are just there and we cannot solve them because it takes too much time to translate manually or going to Google Translate, and people are now starting to think ahead. So if they start to have a strategy on their company, if they see some interactions coming in, they immediately go for where is the tool that can help me solve that. So that's quite nice. Yeah. The last two things really quickly: automation. Big trend, not only on customer service. I think in localization is very, very important. Like if you are copy pasting your knowledge base articles to an Excel sheet and then sending it by email and then copy pasting them again, this creates an immense amount of manual work, repetitive manual work that your team should not actually be doing. They should be focused on.
The reality is knowledge bases need to be updated pretty regularly. Like things change, new requests come in. So you need to have that dynamic flexibility for sure.
Yeah. And just have your tech stack connected so that you don't have to do this manually. Instead of taking you one day, it can take you half an hour, right? And the last thing, I think Dmitry already spoke about it, hire based on skill. So technology can help you answer questions in any language. So if you're hiring, just hire someone. Obviously, if you want to have 24/7 support, you need to have people in different time zones. That's clear. But hire based on people that are going to understand your product, understand your customer needs, and and then leverage technology. It's there to be used.
Yeah, super. Kind of thinking about delivering a high quality customer experience, global experience. Dmitry, are there any learnings from your team as you start to think, beyond just a couple of languages, as you've scaled up to really cover the entire globe? What kind of learnings can you share?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I always think that when customers can express themselves in their native language, it's better. So it's better if support a bit struggles with the language barrier rather than the customer struggles with that. Because for support team, it's very important to understand the issue and to understand all the small details. And if customer doesn't feel comfortable speak English language, not native language, they may not explain the issue as they want it. And allowing them to speak their native language, it actually speeds up the process, the quality of the support overall as well, because then support team is not wasting the time to double check the information, ask some extra questions, and sometimes you may even start troubleshooting the issue in the wrong direction, and then you have to get back and start all over again and asking the same questions. Allowing customers to speak their language, we kind of avoiding this language barrier, and overall the experience is better. And I have a few stats if you let me.
Yeah.
I don't have a slide, but so in Localize we have 90% of our conversations in English, and only 10 are in the non-English languages, and there are 82 different languages. And the top two languages are the Spanish. It's 4% of all conversations are in Spanish, and 3% are for French. And actually, the average customer satisfaction for all languages it's 98.5%. And only for Spanish, it is 100%. And for French, it is 99.3%, which is even higher than average. So people, more satisfied with this kind of support. And also in terms of the response time as well, it's just equal. A few seconds is different. So basically, response is the same, satisfaction is better. So that's why speak the customer's native language is always the bonus.
And do you think those satisfaction rates are higher because they're happy to be able to work in their own language, which probably isn't always the case, right?
Yeah, I think so. That they communicate their own language, plus the quality is also a bit better overall.
Let me add to that. Like there's a stat that shows that 75% of buyers would more likely repurchase from a company if they are supported in their native language. So this customer satisfaction, then creates like this cycle of growth basically for the company. So it's a very big deal.
Yeah, and there's an element of when you're in times gone by, I worked with companies expanding into Europe, and like there's an element of localization, not just the language piece. You need to get the currency right. You need to be in the local market so that they can deal with you through the ways they're used to paying, and everything else, their VAT needs to be dealt with, or GST, depending on where you are, sales tax. All of these things need to be right for you to be a provider that's trustworthy and in the market and present correctly for them, rather than just kind of like, oh, we're an American company or a anywhere company just kind of loosely present there. So I think there's that commitment to a market that localization shows as well. Super. So Abby, I think it'd be great to hear from you. Like, as you're thinking about the stage you're at now and looking forward, like how you think about innovating. Is it adding more languages, or are you going to, what are the things on your priority list as you look forward over the next while?
Yeah, definitely. It's basically just following the data, reviewing what region we should kind of penetrate next. And so from a communication support side of things, though, I'm definitely more focused on like tightening that brand tone of voice. So one of the learnings that I had was just, in our macros that we use in Intercom, sometimes the English version doesn't translate well because we're using a little bit of a more like, especially in Australia, we use all of these lingos and like phrases that, English speaking people can get. But then when that's translated in our Brazilian Portuguese macros, our creators in that space just have no idea what we're talking about. And so really tightening that kind of tone of voice, especially as we scale up, and having that kind of writing style that's kind of that can be used across all different regions is what my main focus on. We also have, so we currently have help centers in Portuguese and Indonesian. We're also looking at when we can then add another hub center for another for the next region that to support more of our creators in there. So that's kind of what we're looking at right now, and definitely what my priorities are right now.
And you're just so I'm fully clear in your partnership with Localize and Intercom, they're enabling you both on the translation of those help centers as well as the agent, the language translations within the inbox. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. So we definitely, all our agents use the chat Localize integration. We have tier 2 agents working with me closely for the help center translations, just to review and double check that everything is good before we publish it into those help centers.
Yeah, super. I might move to Miguel for the last question, then I'll move to Q&A, just conscious of time here, and we want to cover off the questions that folks had. So Miguel, like, it'd be great to have some examples of customers that have scaled multilingual very well.
Right, I think we have one here. Abby explained quite well how they did this at Linktree. We have several different customers with different ways of approaching this, but I would say every successful company that we see using Localize, they use it for two things. And I'll give you an example. We have a company called Doxy in telemedicine, and they grew from 1 to 100 supported languages in a few months. They did this in two ways, just like Abby. Number one, they automated the translation of their knowledge base articles. So they use Intercom as well. So it's very easy just to pull in the articles from Intercom articles, translate them into 150, 200 languages, whatever you want, and then push it back very seamlessly into your Intercom articles. The second thing that they did was use localized messages with Intercom within the inbox of Intercom. So they equip their agents to speak in any language. If anyone comes from Spain speaking Spanish, you don't have an agent, then it will translate to English. You write in English, the customer will receive in Spanish. And you have other features like language-based routing. We have that with Intercom, where, okay, there's a Spanish agent actually available. Why should we translate it, right? Doesn't make sense. So we direct that interaction to the Spanish agents that you have available. You have analytics per language where you can see, okay, just like Dmitry showed our stats, you can see, okay, there's a problem with Portuguese, for example. And you can identify, okay, there's something wrong here. Let's investigate and make the necessary measures to actually improve it. So, but basically those two things are the main two actions that we have been seeing a lot of success with. And Linktree is one of the examples. Doxy is another, but we have a lot more.
Yeah, no, that's wonderful. I think we might move through to some of the questions here. So Abby, was there a baseline percentage that your team identified to start focusing on language relevant to the country where they were seeing an increase in activation? So was there kind of was there some indicators that you were using that drew you to those languages?
Yeah, so we definitely have like a dashboard that shows all the different countries that are currently using Linktree. And so I wasn't at Linktree at the time when the decision was made, but from my understanding, it was quite a dramatic difference between the top three regions compared to like the rest of the regions. And so because we're having we're able to see that very dramatic difference, that's kind of when we started diving in just to see a little bit more as to how these creators are using our products, how we can definitely leverage and push them into being able to use certain features based off of what they need and stuff like that. So I unfortunately I don't have like the stats to provide, but my understanding, it really was a dramatic difference between the top three and the rest of the other countries.
Interesting. And I might just ask, I suppose we focused heavily on customer support. What other teams and stakeholders need to be involved in delivering a localized experience? So I'll kind of open that to anyone who would like to address it.
Yeah, I can go first. So right now the key teams, so our growth teams, so those are just the kind of tied to marketing, tied to CEO. So that team, they definitely need to be involved. The second one, I would say, is CRM, so email marketing. They need to be involved just so that they can, target some of those creators in different regions and have those translated marketing emails to them as well.
Super.
Yeah, I can answer that. So at Localize, we have this vision that you should actually localize in every step of the customer journey. So from the first touch point to the last one. So if you are doing marketing efforts, you should localize them, or at least try to localize them and see if it increases conversion, if it increases reach. You should enable your sales team with localized presentations. You should localize your experience itself. If you have an app and that's the way that you connect with your customer on a daily basis, then you should localize it as well. If you have a website, the same thing. And then on the customer service, we already talked about that topic. So in that way, you can cover all of it. I think, one of the things that we like to say a lot, especially in customer service and marketing, we like to talk about personalization, right? We see our name and we say, okay, we are increasing conversion because it's personalized. But if you talk to me and say, hey, Miguel, and then you send me a message in Spanish, that's not personalization at all, because, you're calling me by name, true. But in the end, you're speaking a language that I might not understand, or that I, don't know how to speak. And so I think there's a gap there. Like when we talk about personalization of the way that we engage with customers, localization is still a gap.
Yeah, Actually, there's a question here. It was for Miguel. You mentioned the self support for the majority of customers, and I agree when you're talking about countries. Sorry, my question is: there's differences between certain countries. So I think the example is like, you know, Portuguese in Brazil versus Portuguese in Portugal. So, you know, does your team pick up on those nuances, or is it pretty well handled?
Yes, so you can when you localize by locale and not by language itself. So you can have
by region as well as
by Portugal. I think the question was also about how like different countries will tend to look at self-service in different ways. I think that's true, and that's actually true in demographics as well. So maybe if you have a country like Portugal that is you know, more like old people in terms of demographics, they are less receptive to self-service. They prefer to talk in person, right? So you need to evaluate those things. One thing I should say, if you do it in a scalable way, turning from 3 languages to 10 languages or 50 languages, it's not going to be a big effort. Like the delta effort is not that big.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. And I suppose I'm just noticing time. We might move towards kind of, you know, any kind of last piece of advice from yourselves for companies getting started. So we'll kind of a quick round. I'll start with Dmitry.
Sorry, I think I just had some issues with the mic.
Sorry, a last piece of advice to leave people with, and then I'm gonna close out because we're kind of running on time here. But I might start with yourself if there's anything for companies getting started, and ask Abby and Miguel to also.
I think there are a few main things that you should focus on. For me, it always was the support quality. Then it was the coverage. So in Localize, we had 24/7 support. And of course, the speed of the agents, how speed they can react on the conversations and answer. And then only we were thinking about actual localization of our customer support. So for the beginning, it's better to use some tools rather than hiring extra people to your team. Because then once you understand your market and how many non-English conversations you have based on the statistics after, let's say, a year, so then you can decide, is that tool the right for you and you want to continue using that, or is better to hire more people? But for the beginning, it's better to not focus on that. It's better to gather more statistics and then make a decision based on that.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. And maybe not take on too many languages at once, do a few to get started, right? Exactly. Anything from Abby or Miguel as I move to closing?
Yeah, for me, I would say just, you know, follow the data, find the best tools, leverage your support agents. They have a wealth of knowledge in terms of how your customers are using your product. And then just, you know, align it with the company goals.
Right. And Miguel?
I have very little to add. They were really good. Align with the rest of the company, align with the company goals. Don't grow too fast. Try things, fail, analyze data. So I think Abby and Dmitry actually covered all of it.
And I think that's a super takeaway. I guess, you know, first of all, check out Linktree. It's a really great tool. So for our guests here today, the idea of one link to help you find everything on the internet is a great idea, and is highly utilized by so many on Instagram and on other platforms. For Localize, if you're interested in learning more about their Localize and translation platform, do reach out to them. If we have early stage startups, Intercom startups program available on our website. We've over 5,000 startups using us, so please go check that out. If you're an SME or mid-market company, drop into the messenger on our website. Our team would be delighted to chat with you and help you learn more about Intercom and about Localize as well, our integration there. So thank you very much for joining us today. Thank you very much, Dmitry, Miguel, and Abby. Really appreciate your time. And to our guests who have joined us and the people who are going to watch this back, take care, and we'll catch you next month. We have a webinar on customer support metrics with a company called Equals. So we'll share that as well, and a follow up with this recording. So thank you very much, everyone, and take care.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.